Hi there, welcome back. Hopefully you've seen the first video, being in meditation number 1, and this is being in meditation number 2. In the last video we did mostly talking about the breath. Having a good understanding, a good background, good understanding of the breath is going to make everything that we do from now on much easier and much easier to understand why we're doing what we're doing. So that last video was a lot of talk about the breath and its effects and so on. And this, we're now going to go forward with more practical applications. Last time we left with the mindfulness of breathing meditation by feeling the sensation, the physical sensation of the air going in through the nostrils and coming back out of the nostrils. And this is something that you could do for 1 or 2 minutes, once or twice a day. No more than that, 2-3 minutes max. And you can build up as you become more comfortable. When you're first starting, no more than a couple of minutes. You hear about people talking about, I was in a state where I wasn't even thinking for half an hour and all that sort of stuff. Don't get caught up in that. As I often say, this is not about being a spiritual jock. We have we have a thing in this culture about achieving and getting, and so on. And meditation isn't so much about achieving something as it really is, in a lot of ways, letting go of things rather than gaining something, or readjusting the way that we see, the way that we perceive things. So let's just pause for a minute, and then we're going to do a few new things. Let's just pause for a few moments and close your eyes. And we're going to do some mindfulness of breathing together, just for 30 seconds or so. So just because I'm going to introduce something now, which is called counting, basically. So close your eyes and bring your attention to your nostrils. Take a breath in. You might want to make it a little bit stronger breath than just a normal breathing in and out. So put your attention at the nostrils and breathe in. Pause and breathe out. Pause, breathe in. Pause, breathe out. Pause, breathe in. Pause, breathe out. Pause. The inevitable question that people ask is, how long do I do this for? How long is the pause? How long is the breath? Basically, you can do it this way. You can go in, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, out, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, in, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, etc., and so on. What you'll find as you're going along and you're doing this for a couple of minutes, and believe me, 1 or 2 minutes of this is a substantially long amount of time to really start to slow the mind down, slow down the breath, is you'll find that those counts may not be enough, may not be long enough. So you might find you might be go in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pause, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pause, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So you're extending them as you find the breath starts to slow down. Now, intuitively, you'll feel this, or you can just make the 1, 2, 3, 4 go slower, whatever works for you, but you want to extend, if you can, especially the pauses. When the pauses become as long as the breath, the mind becomes extremely still. And in some cases, that chattering, the thinking mind may actually cease. Don't make that a goal. Just if you notice it, you will notice there's a qualitative feeling difference when you get to those pauses. Once those pauses extend, there's an enormous amount of clarity. These are the windows, so to speak. These are the windows of clarity. They have just as much importance as the breath. So you're think of the breathing as activity and the pause as stillness. You could also think of some of the analogies that are used as, think of the breathing in and the breathing out as a movement through as daytime, and the pauses being night. So you basically have the pauses at the two ends really being nighttime, in a sense. If that gets too complicated, don't worry about it. But notice that there's a qualitative feeling difference in the pauses as opposed to when the breath is moving. And if you notice that the pauses are becoming just as long as the in-breath and the out-breath, you're making some headway. Don't aim for it. Don't force yourself into it. That's the last thing you want to do, is get to that pause and go, I'm going to hold this pause and so on. Because then next thing you know, when you do the in-breath, you're going to be, and then you're just going to start agitating. The mind's going to start up. So it has to be a comfortable, natural pause. And it takes a little time to get used to this, because the mind is saying, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or maybe that's not long enough, or maybe I have to just kind of like, okay, all right, you just be quiet for a second, this thing, and return to the sensation. And that's the idea of why we're doing breath, focusing on the physical sensation instead of visualizing, which becomes more mental, which can get the mind going and doing its thing. So initially, when you're first learning to meditate, you want to really be focusing on the physical experience. It's because it's non-mental, it's non-verbal. And that makes a big difference when you're beginning. So we're going to continue this now with a slight extension. Okay, so we did this in and out at the nostrils. Now this time, we're going to take the breath and take it up through the nostrils. We're going to still feel that sensation, but be aware of the movement of the lungs, of the air up through the nose and down into your lungs and filling your lungs. And then the breath out, feeling it come up through and out the nostrils. And the pause. In through the nostrils, down into the lungs. Breathe normally. You don't have to force a deep breath. Just breathe normally. Just watch the breath. Stay with the physical sensation. Almost as if you're traveling in with the breath. So you're going in through the nostrils, up, down into the lungs, and you're down there in the lungs, and then you feel that pause. And then you follow the breath out as if you're going back and forth, down to the bottom, out through the nostrils, down into the lungs, out through the nostrils. That's going to make a big difference. And you can do your pauses and your counting accordingly, but roughly that 4 to 2 count is a good place to start. So the breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, or out, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the pause of 2. So it's half of the breath. So the in breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the out breath. 1, 2. And then extend them as you feel the breath slowing down. And eventually, extend the pauses if you feel it. If you feel that there's this calmness that comes to you, that is really kind of a delicious, beautiful, sweet calm in between the breaths, you really want to tap into that. So I think that's enough for now for number 2. We've gone from just the sensation at the nostrils, and then we're taking the breath down into the lungs and back out, staying with the physical sensation. Follow the sensation of the air moving through the nostrils, through the sinuses, down through the throat, down into the chest, into the lungs. Let it pause, feel it come back up through the lungs, through the bronchial tubes, through the throat, up into the sinuses, and out through the nose, and so on, back and forth. Using the same counting, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 ratio. And that you can do for a long time, actually. That is a very, very good way. And it's a good thing to do. You can use this opportunity, or there are opportunities that come up during our day where we could really do this. And since we're only looking at doing this for a minute or two a day, a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, there are also times, let's just say you were at work and there's a stressful situation happens, either with a customer or with a coworker or your boss or something like this, and you find that the mind's a little agitated and so on. Go take a break, go to the washroom, shut the door, sit in a cubicle, whatever. It's like, make sure you've got some privacy, and then just do that a couple of times, maybe 3-4 times. Just follow the breath down and out do the full breath that we just learned today. Follow the breath down, out, focusing on the pauses as well, keeping that awareness of the pause. Whenever you feel stressed, or if you feel, you just want to refocus, reset the mind. There are many opportunities in the day when we can do that. Some people can even do it while they're working. And so maybe you have a quiet spot somewhere, you don't necessarily want to get up and go to the washroom or something. And just watch one in and out breath. Just one and out. Even that can make a difference. So be a creative opportunist. Be a creative opportunist and find out where you can place a couple of those in. Sneak a couple of those in during the day. Just maybe one in breath, one out breath. That's it. And if you can do a couple of them, bravo. Being creative with meditation in that sense of of placing it throughout your day, instead of just making it just that thing you do at a dedicated time in your home, really makes a difference in terms of understanding meditation. It becomes something that you realize that you can do throughout your day in skillful kind of ways, which actually, so you don't have to wait 24 hours to reset your mind again. You can do it throughout your day. And since we're looking at only doing it for a couple of in and out breaths, if you want to do longer and it feels good, do it longer, but do it at home. Do it at home when you've got the chance, because you don't want to be spending 10 minutes in the washroom every couple hours and people start, what's that person doing going in the washroom all the time? Because I know that there are actually in some workplaces like retail and so on where they actually watch that as a suspicious sign of various types of behavior. If you're always running off to the washroom, that's seen as suspicious behavior. So be discreet about how you place these in during the day, maybe one in the afternoon, one in the morning or something like that. Still, you want to do it, but if you can do it while you're actually working, just following one in breath and one out breath, and just for a second, try not to close your eyes so you're not standing in the middle of the retail floor or sitting at your desk in the office and people are walking by and you're sitting there going, you want to be skillful about it, but let's be discreet and let's not, make a show of it. You don't want to do that. And there's another thing there too. Don't tell people that you're starting to meditate. Keep it private. Keep it private. It's a private thing. Because sometimes your colleagues and your friends, your relatives, may just not think that this is a valuable thing at all, or they'll just think it's weird, or it's just plain stupid. There's a lot of people out there who really think that this is really some kind of weird new age airy-fairy sort of self-delusional kind of thing. And there's good reasons for them to think so. I mean, there's some of the stuff has been commercialized and made kind of silly at points. So especially when you're beginning, it's really important to keep this private, unless you're talking to someone else who's meditating, someone who's done it for a while, or maybe someone who's starting out just like you. But keep it to just your colleagues that are doing it, high-level people, or whether they're people who are just beginning. The reason for that is it's easy to have somebody that you care for or respect, or you don't want to annoy, or you don't want to alienate yourself from. People can do a lot of damage just by making an offhand comment, especially when we're just starting something. And if it's something that most people don't really understand, they'll dismiss, oh, what do you do? Sit on a chair and go, that kind of comment can stop you in your tracks and stop you from meditating, because you think, yeah, maybe this is stupid. Yeah, maybe this is just new agey. Yeah, So keep it private. Keep it private. And the worst people to tell this to are the people who are closest to you. Unfortunately. Unfortunately for a lot of us, our families and our friends around us, people that have been with us for a long time, especially if you're starting to meditate. I've been meditating for 40 years, and most of the time I've kept it quiet. I've only told my family that I'm meditating and teaching meditation just recently. And I started that 40 years ago. Because my family will not understand this. They don't understand this. And I was telling my mother about this, and she was like, oh okay. All right. And even though I've been doing it for 40 years, that was enough to, there's that subtle level of where it made me feel bad, So be very, very discreet about who you talk to about this. It makes a big difference, and it's easy to become discouraged at the beginning, because this is something that's very misunderstood. It's very, very misunderstood. So again, we did that breathing down to the lungs and out again, and doing that counting. This will help. Eventually you will drop the counting. When your body intuitively gets the feel for, it's like learning how to play an instrument. You start dropping the theory after a while, and then you just play. So think of it as a way, as almost like, it's almost like learning a musical instrument. It really is. There's some theory at the beginning, and you really have to it gets wonky. I know when I learned how to play guitar ages ago in my teens, I didn't think I would do it. I was able to do it because for the first 3 months, it's like trying to get your fingers to stretch out enough to be able to make a chord, and and hit them, press them down in the right way so that you're not making a dead sound with the string instead of lying flat, which deadens the string, and so on. Guitar players know what I'm talking about. Until you're making chords so fast that you don't even realize it. You're not thinking about that. You're not thinking about, a G chord looks like this, an A chord looks like this. You're just doing it. And it's the same thing with meditation. At the beginning, you might have to learn a few things, you have to count things and so on like this. But then once the body intuits the proportions and the movements and so on, it will become second nature, and you won't have to do it. But in the beginning, do it. It is really helpful for teaching your body to get used to these rhythms and to this type of movement of consciousness, and it will actually do you a great deal of good. Okay, See you next time.